Larry Springs, City Manager, City of North Miami.
Gary Eugene, I'm the police chief.
Major Tim Belcher, North Miami Police Department.
Robert Gage, Assistant Chief, City of North Miami Police Department.
Neil Cuevas, Assistant Chief, North Miami Police Department.
Larry Chiriga, Assistant Chief, North Miami Police Department.
Craig Lean, I'm on the board for the Center for Autism and Related Disabilities for UM and Nova Southeastern. I also happen to be the City Attorney of Coral Gables.
Jeff Kenzo, City Attorney, North Miami.
Thank you all for coming this evening. Very quickly, this is the next, I guess, installment of the Community Council meeting. As we established back last summer, we wanted to have this council meeting, these community council meetings, so that community interests are and stay informed and are allowed to give us input as we implement a number of new initiatives, some that were already in play, some as a result of the unfortunate incident we had last summer. With that, I'd like to call to the mic Troy Walker, Special Agent of FDLE Southern Region, to just give some quick remarks and it's a quick update on what you've done with regards to us.
Well, first of all, good evening, and thank you for having me here this evening. As it relates to the officer-involved shooting, I guess what we're discussing involving Officer Aleda and Mr. Kinsey, that shooting was wrapped up by FDLE back in December, and we provided our summary and all investigative reports to the state attorney's office. So right now it's just being reviewed by the state attorney's office for further assessment and I guess rendering an opinion which way the case will go. We really don't have much more to add as far as details, but that's where we are right now.
Thank you, Troy. What I'd like to add on that, and the chief is aware, on our side, it is in the state attorney's office and our internal affairs office is doing their separate continued investigations of the shooting incident. As a matter of making sure from the state attorney's side, I have, along with the city attorney, met with the state attorney's office just to kind of get an update on where they are. They're hoping within the next, I hope, a few weeks, be able to wrap up their portion of the investigation. And I think we're tracking similarly in our internal affairs. So we just want to make sure that the community and the council remain abreast of that process. Again, we cannot release any details associated with the content of your report or where we are, but again, we are working diligently to move past this important step. So, Troy, thank you again for coming. I appreciate it. Any questions, Mr. Lean?
No, it makes, we have the same thing in Coral Gables. Whenever we're doing an investigation, that's protected by state law, and it's done for purposes of due process.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that, I'm going to pass the agenda over to Major Belcher to give us an update on certain training that we've been doing.
Good afternoon. I'm going to let the chief going to give a brief overview real quick, and then we're going to go down the list of items that we need to discuss.
No, basically all I have to say thank you to all of you, especially the key players of our community, for the trust that you have put upon us. And basically we have signed a contract with that community council. And but we have accomplished, we have fulfilled our obligation, and even beyond what was signed, what was came in light following against, like the city manager said, that very unfortunate incidents, that we are moving forward. I'm pretty confident that we have accomplished in 6 months what probably would have taken years for us to accomplish, thanks to the support we got from you and from the city manager's office. I'm very thankful of this. Hopefully we can take our police department even deeper into the 21st century. Once again, thank you for the trust.
All right, and just moving forward with some additional information that we began with the 90-day plan. Some of the things that we have accomplished, I will be announcing those. And the first on the agenda was crisis intervention. We currently have 32 CIT certified officers, 7 CIT certified dispatchers, and we have 5 that's expected to go to the next training during the months of March and April. And it's very important that we get our officers, first of all, into this training, because that's a priority for us, since they are our first responders who will be making the initial contact with with citizens or either the suspects who suffer from mental illness. And as far as the autism training, all of our officers have completed, all of our personnel have completed the autism training. We have completed the process of educating and training our personnel in the awareness of autism spectrum disorder, which is ASD. And we will continue to follow up training to our personnel and inform them of any new related information that comes about dealing with autism. So if there's some new information, some new training that need to be put out, our officers will and our personnel will be informed of that. So just in case they get out on the scene, they can be able to deal with those issues. I'm gonna just move right into our PERF best practices. And so continuous training on best practices to address and solve everyday issues and or concerns such as use of force, de-escalation, officer safety, policy review and adjustment, and strategies to safely solve issues. We have contracted and scheduled PERF as a consultant to conduct a review of our use of force and training policies and staffing. PERF is currently in the process of reviewing our policies and making contact with key staff members in the police department. They will take about 60 days to complete their review and issue a report. They will also conduct a training seminar for command staff members on PERF 30 guiding principles and how to apply those 30 guiding principles. Next up is the body-worn cameras. The body-worn cameras is an ongoing process, and after I get through with the couple of bullet points that I have, Assistant Chief Robert Bage will be giving a brief overview along with the company that was chosen, which is Point Blank, through the bid system. I know we had a timeline last year, 2016, when we first started this, and we're pretty much on point with the timeline. If I can just go back, November we started the RFP, December we did the selection process, January was the purchasing, February was the setup, and March we're now is distribution, training, and operational. So the policy for this tool has been completed. Equipment overview and instructor train the trainer is complete. Police personnel training is 70% complete. We will be going live with a test group March 22nd. Training completion will be March 27th, and all cameras will go live on March 31st. And now we'll turn it over to Assistant Chief Major Bage, and he will give you a brief overview.
Good evening. To start with, I'd like to introduce the representatives of Point Blank that are right here. They're going to come up and do a brief demonstration of the camera and show a video for the operation of the camera.
There are no warnings. There is no precedent. Today, the eyes of the world can fall upon anyone. Anywhere we go, in anything we do, as emerging technologies grow and expand, and their reach extends to the field of law enforcement. And now, a new age in body-worn cameras has dawned. With more than 40 years in the body armor industry, Point Blank is a brand officers can trust, because there can be no compromise when it comes to officer safety. Our capabilities extend beyond body armor and ballistics to advanced technologies like the remarkable new Iris Cam. The new Iris Cam from Point Blank simply redefines state-of-the-art. And when you wear it for truth. Never before have so many advanced technologies been combined in a single body-worn camera. The Iris Cam offers extremely high-definition video, a remarkable 140-degree field of vision, a built-in 2-inch display, simple one-touch recording. The optional built-in GPS and Wi-Fi feature allow for photo and video location tagging, which will help agencies with investigations over large urban or rural areas. The data storage capabilities of the Iris Cam are also remarkable, with more than ample capacity for every situation. And there are several data management options that feature secure on-site and cloud-based solutions. The Iris Cam's advanced software can also be updated as laws and regulations change, and can be customized for specific or evolving needs. The Iris Cam is truly a breakthrough in body-worn cameras. It sets a new standard in performance, a new standard in convenience. And now, Point Blank is setting a new standard in giving officers the tools they need to serve their agencies and their communities. We're changing the whole picture for body-worn cameras. Iris Cam. Learn more today. Wear it for truth. Wear it for trust.
So we've just seen a brief overview of the camera. Why do we wear it? As it says, we wear it for truth. The camera will tell us what happened. There'll be no more depending upon a cell phone video that may tell the story, may tell part of the story. We want to know what happened. Good or bad, we want to know what happened. And body-worn video is helping us in the community from both sides. It's actually a healing tool between the community and law enforcement. The features of our camera are very advanced. It gives the officer the ability to see in the dark, gives the officer the ability to record what occurred just before and just after the incident, audio when necessary, and can be programmed to comply with all the necessary laws in privacy and for preservation of evidence. I think we can take some questions if there are any about it. Anybody has any questions regarding features or what we do with the camera? Please. This cannot be erased. Absolutely not. Okay. No. These are designed to capture what occurred and keep it there. Okay, I think the city should speak to the costs. I was not involved in that particular end of it, so I will defer that to the city.
The cameras are going to cost us approximately $525,000, or approximately a little over $100,000, I think $130,000 a year. We did fund it out of some of our justice money and LETF money, some of our grant funds, along with some money from the general fund to supplement the grant funding.
Yes, ma'am.
I can comment on the policy issues, and I was going to get into the policy issues in a second. I just wanted them to explain the actual functionality of the camera and demonstrate the camera to you. So, Louis, if you guys are done with your portion.
I was just going to briefly see if there's any other questions and just let them each hold the camera briefly.
And I'll come back to your policy question in 1 second.
Okay. Just take a look and you can pass it. Yes, please.
Yes, you said that it was optional audio.
No, there are options within the audio to comply with privacy laws. There are audio all the time unless it's precluded by statute or other reason, if there's a privacy issue.
What kind of microphone is
It has a built-in electret microphone, multi-directional.
it? What range of decibels?
The range is basically probably within 5 feet of the office, or 5 feet, unless it's something very loud. Typically, your speaking range. 5 feet? Yeah, I mean, you're going to pick up ambient noise, but directly focused on whatever.
Yes, it is designed to work in low light. Yes, ma'am.
What's the probability of it falling off, and is it waterproof, or what's the charges like?
So the camera is rated to be weather resistant. It can be worn in the rain. You certainly cannot go swimming in the pool with it, but it is rated to be used in inclement weather. And the battery life runs approximately 5.5 to 6 hours per battery. Each camera is equipped with 2 separate batteries. So you can change them in the field. You also have the ability to charge them in the field should you be out beyond the range of time of the batteries.
So there's multiple clip options. That's just the standard clip. There's a special magnetic clipping mechanism that cradles the camera and magnetically clips it.
The storage capacity is beyond what you would record in the field because they're downloaded. So it way exceeds. It could be recorded in the field for multiple shifts. But the policy is where at the end of the shift it's downloaded and stored.
Does it change in terms of the level of clarity? So in terms of your high definition and that sort of thing, and the storage capacity?
The storage capacity is changed by the definition of what you record, but you never go below 720, so you're always going to have a very high resolution. Yes, ma'am. Approximately 5 feet of clear audio.
You're going to hear ambient noise. Imagine your cell phone volume. It's that a little bit.
And most of your contact is going to be within 5 feet, and if it's beyond 5 feet, you're still going to have the video, and you'll always have the audio from the officer. So if there's a command being issued, whether it's 20 feet away, you will always capture that. Yes. Yes. What's the range of the IR?
It depends on whether or not they're using the infrared, but night is low light, so it's going to see basically what the officer.
Thanks.
That's a policy question but from a technical perspective, the camera sees essentially what's off.
All right, and I'll cover some of the policy issues now. Thank you for your input and your demonstration of the camera. And I can tell you one thing from point blank. When they came and brought us the cameras for our first test site, they said, hey, you guys stop by our factory anytime you want. We're up in Pompano Beach. We're local, this and that. They kind of said it in jest, like when you meet somebody on the street, hey, come by my house sometime, maybe come over for a drink or something. We actually knocked on their door unannounced and toured their whole factory. I think it caught them off guard for a second, but they're very hospitable. And they have a actual whole lab that they have the cameras in and everything else. They're a well-founded, well-run company, and they're local in Pompano Beach, so if we have any issues, we'll just drive up there again and knock on their door and say, fix it for us. So in that aspect, it's a very good partnership, and they've worked with us. In the video, when it talks about customization, we talk with Josh, and we talk to the people in Point Blank to say, hey, we need this feature, we need this added, we need this changed, and they've always accommodated whatever changes we needed on it. When you asked about the policy and how the actual camera operates, what will happen is the officer will take their camera at the beginning of their shift and they'll turn on their camera. When you turn on your camera, you're not activating it in record mode. You're simply turning it on, and it's in a standby feature. So as soon as you press the center button, it instantly turns on. And what they talked about, the pre-event, it actually goes back 30 seconds. It has a continuous loop buffer, so it's going to catch back the previous 30 seconds prior to the activation. Because in other places, there's been incidents that occurred that when the officer activates the camera, it didn't quite capture the event because something caused the officer to activate the camera, and you may have missed those 5 or 10 seconds leading up to the activation. So it has a 30-second pre-buffer. So when you activate the camera, you'll go back the last 30 seconds as long as the camera was already turned on in the standby mode. Once the camera is activated, and the camera will be activated for any law enforcement action, traffic stop, call for service, anytime the officer takes any type of action, the camera is activated. It's in the policy. They simply press the center button, camera's activated, it records. When the conclusion of the law enforcement event, after they write the traffic ticket and they get back in their car, then they turn off the camera. When they get back in their car, because they're done handling your report or whatever the call for service was, they turn off the camera. So it starts at the start of the law enforcement event and it ends at the end of the law enforcement event. At the end of their shift, they bring the camera back to the station. We have a docking center set up in the back of our squad room. They will dock their camera, and at that point, the video is transferred from the camera to our local server, and then it's stored in the cloud. So all the data is stored in the cloud. The officers can only view their video on their camera and view the video in the cloud. You asked about deletion and anything else. That video cannot be deleted by the officers. That video on the camera, they have no control over the video at all. All they can do is activate the camera, deactivate the camera, and play back if necessary on the back screen, but it's only a playback on the back screen. And then they upload, and then it goes to the cloud software. In the cloud software, we manage the videos, but we cannot change, we cannot edit the videos. If you come to us and you say, I want a copy of my video because I was involved in an incident, you'll make a public records request, just like you would for an arrest form or an offense report or an incident report, and one of our records personnel will generate you a copy of the video. Now, certain aspects of the video are protected by the public records laws, and if something is a protected image or a protected statement or a protected area, that area will be redacted. Where you see on the news, sometimes they blur it out, or we'll edit out we'll mute the audio. We won't edit out the audio. We'll mute the audio, and we'll release to you whatever is allowable to be released by law. So that's basically how the procedures would follow, or the policy would follow. And Hector, you asked about the audio. Even though they told you 5 foot, we've done some field testing in it, and as long as pretty much whatever you can pick up with your ear, you can pick up with the camera. So if somebody's whispering in the back of the room, you may not get it, but if we were talking like we were talking right now and the camera was in the back of the room, it would record the noise that's going on. And Pastor Tim, we'd like to thank him. He sat on the selection committee, and he represented the community council, and he was there and he saw the various vendors come in, and he also saw the point blank camera and the Gentex software that runs the point blank camera. So we appreciate the time. It was a 3-day process to go through all the different vendors for the camera selection. Yes. No, the infrared is a feature in the camera. This camera has a laser pointer, it has a flashlight, it has the infrared. We will not have the infrared activated in the camera. We want the camera to capture the same as the officer would see. So it will record in low light, just like your eye will see in low light. It's very similar to recording to what your eye would see. You can manually turn on the infrared if you wanted to, but the camera will not automatically turn on the infrared because we want to have an accurate depiction of what the events that transpired on the scene. And I believe you had a question behind her? It's like anything else. It's going to be in the policy that they would turn on their camera and activate their camera. When an officer violates policy, it's handled on a case-by-case basis, and they will see what the policy violation was, why wasn't the camera turned on, have they not turned on the camera before. We follow progressive discipline, and it will definitely be monitored and documented, and then it will be handled according to the situation at hand at that time. Yes. We gave every officer a 4-hour training class. In that 4-hour training class, we went over policy, we went hands-on with the camera, we let them film videos, we let them upload videos, we showed them everything we could on the camera. When we pass out the cameras, we'll do another 15 to 20-minute training with the officers. And like you were speaking about, anything that is new, there's going to be some type of learning curve to build the muscle memory and everything else, and we'll take that into consideration as we look at the policy violations. So if it was one time that an officer did it and it was his first day he had the camera, that will be dealt with one way, where when it's 6 months down the road and the same officer has not activated the camera on 10 separate occasions, that would be handled in a different manner. So it would be case by case, and time will be one of those factors that's built into the case.
Let me add to that, so that we're clear in layman's terms. Once we go live on the 31st, the discipline will be there. The level of discipline will change based on how they are, but the discipline will be there. So that means everybody's on notice. And, you know, I'll take this moment to thank the chief, Assistant Chief Page, Belcher, Larry, Cuevas, Pastor Tim, and everybody, Deputy City Manager as well. We gave the community a deadline to get this done at the beginning, and we're going to make it, and we did it the right way. This policy was reviewed not only internally, I know the state attorney's office, we looked at the county and Miami Beach and other comparables that locally already have cameras. So we had the advantage of their eras, their process to help us get here. So I just want you to know, yes, there is a learning curve. They're going to be new to it. I can tell you right now, Assistant Chief Page, I went and rode with them a couple of weeks ago. He already had his camera on. He was playing with it. So he actually knows how to use his camera.
And that was on a bike ride. Somebody asked about how well they stay on. When the city manager was with me, it was on a bike ride, and it did not fall off on the bike ride.
Did not fall off. So I'm confident, and I want to express my confidence that we are doing the right thing, and it is being done in a very methodical and appropriate way.
Mr. Manager, I believe there was one more question right here at the table.
Yes. Mr. Mayor.
How have you addressed the issue of, I remember under the Florida statutes, images of police officers are protected? Sorry. I remember under the Florida statutes that, like, photos or video of police officers' faces are protected. I assume that officers will get other officers on this video. Have you addressed that? Will you obscure their faces?
It's not, the way I believe when I've read the statute, it's not all police officers, because you'll notice on the news that it talks about, the statute talks about undercover officers, confidential informants. There's a subgroup of police officers which are covered by it.
I don't remember that.
And
I remember at the county when I used to do these that we always took the position if it was a police officer, we would not allow the image to be produced.
And we can research it further to see if it covers all police officers, but we would redact. The same way we would redact juveniles, the same way we would redact if something happened in a bathroom or somewhere else. We have the capability of redacting faces out of the videos.
Okay. Just, that used to come up a lot when I was at the county, and we would get, was a county attorney, I was the chief of the federal litigation section, and we would get a lot of discovery requests, and sometimes it'd be for photos of officers. And I remember it applied to all of them, I thought, but perhaps it's been amended or something. The other thought I had was, you know, I think that I think it's great what you're doing as a department. I myself, and I'm not speaking for Coral Gables here, just myself as an individual, think that these body cameras are very important to getting at the truth. I think they help both. I noticed when I used to handle cases representing police officers at the county that the video doesn't lie, typically. I mean, sometimes it depends on the angle or things like that, but you can get at the truth right away. And so what happens is, my experiences, video, tends to help show that the officer acted reasonably. And in the few times where it doesn't, then you got to resolve that case, and you got to address that individual who's been harmed as a victim, and you got to try to settle the case with them. But otherwise, it leads to immediate, basically summary judgments based on the video. So I think it's always a good thing.
Okay, and I think Mr. Medina had another question. From the 70% that we trained so far, I would say a good percentage of them are probably neutral on them. Some are very excited to get them because, like the attorney said right here, it leads out to transparency and accountability. In a lot of the agencies where cameras have been deployed, a lot of the minor complaints have dropped off or completely disappeared, where they are a lot of the he said, she said complaints, because you had the transparency and the accountability of the camera. So within the officers, there's a good portion of them that are at least neutral or positively geared towards the cameras. Robert Hustis. And we can evaluate that concern. The issue is that the county dispatches for us, and we'd have to get through the county's protocol to get that statement added to the radio dispatch. But it's definitely something that we keep in mind if we do run into issues where we're seeing that the activation rate is not where we want it to be at. I think that's it, Mr. Manager, unless there's any other questions.
No, I think that's it. Thank you, guys. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll move on to the next section of the presentation. I want to recognize Pastor Tim Forbes arrived on the council, as well as Dixie Gonzalez. Thank you for joining us. I'm sure there was a lot of traffic. We still love you. Still love you. Next on the agenda is Assistant Chief Jariga and you got it. And or rather, Major Belcher will be presenting Police Department community engagement that we've been working on as a result of our 90-day plan.
As a city in whole, we have been involved in and continue to be involved in many different community events. I'm gonna name off a few, but that's not all the events that we have been involved with. And at each one of those events, the police have been part of those events where they're engaging with the crowds, engaging with politicians, parishioners, whoever you may name that comes to these events. We are out there with them, talking to them, and making sure that we're building a good relationship with those individuals, especially the spectators also. First of all, we have the Mayor Initiative that's been going on where he's been holding business luncheons where different people from walks of life come to those events. And from the business perspective side of it, and also from the community. But with that, you also have the police officers there also networking with the individuals that's there. We have community events, Black History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, Taste of Haiti, Taste of North Miami. We had the City Mardi Gras, where we had probably over 15,000 people there, where the police was out there engaging with the community, and we had no incidents that took place. Everything turned out pretty good. The weekly bike rides where our cop officers and patrol police officers and some of the civilians in our department, or some of the politicians and the city manager, they go out on community bike rides and they engage with the community in different locations of the city. We just had a ribbon cutting of a newly developed park by North Miami Elementary School, where we had school kids and school staff that was present, along with the council people from our city, and also the politicians, along with the police officers, code enforcement. So we out there engaging with the kids, answering their questions, things that they might need to know. They want to know about police department, they want to know about code, and we're out there to tell them about the information on that. Also, we had the unveiling of the LGBTQ that took place at Enchanted Forest. It was headed off by Councilman Galvin. Out there we had a different crowd of lawyers, judges, people from the community, parishioners, people from different walks of life. We had the police out there, and we was all engaging, enjoying, and having fun. And that's what it's all about. And that's what North Miami is all about. And that's what we've been doing for years. And then we also have the lunch with elementary school kids and high school kids. I know Chief Jariga deals with that with the cops program. They go out to the elementary school and high schools and have lunch with the high school kids and the elementary school kids, and they get to answer questions. Just yesterday, I was sitting in Anthony's Firestone Pizza shop over there, and I had a young man with his mom. He was so happy to see the police. He came over about 8 times. I think his mom had to cut him off. Just to tell me that he really wanted to be a police officer. He's happy, shaking hands, and and everything. I gave him one of my business cards, and he messed around and dropped it and lost it under the table. And he kind of like got upset with his mom, and she found it for him, and he was back happy again. So we really engage with the community out there, whether there's youth from different organizations. I'm part of the 5,000 Role Models. Our whole staff pretty much is part of the 5,000 Role Models. We go out to different events, and we talk to this youth there. We ask them questions. We let them ask us questions, things that they have concern about, and we have scenarios so we can let the youth or the young men and young women get the opportunity to see what the police officers' responsibilities are and what they have to go through when they deal with different situations. We also have a BAB, Brain and Beauty, another project that the community policing deals with, where they also go out and have lunch with those young ladies. I believe the young ladies. Turkey giveaways. When turkey time comes, either whether the mayor is giving out turkeys, the council persons are giving out turkeys, the police is there, engaging with the individuals that's coming to receive a turkey. We having conversations, and we never had any issues at any of those functions. So those are very important also. North Miami Police Department Training and Community Engagement. This was a program that was initiated by the city manager, Larry Springs, and we also have Mr. Ruben Roberts. He's from the RER consulting company. He was the one who presented the program. He was the outside eyeball that taught the program to our officers and took them out to individuals in the schools and had them to engage, and he was able to be an eyewitness to how we engage with the youth in our communities. Also, we have the upcoming FACT Festival, Families Against Crime Together. At the FACT Festival, these events involve members from within and outside our North Miami community, from different walks of life and ethnic groups, politicians, clergy, police personnel, fire personnel, school personnel, City of North Miami personnel, professional entertainers, and professional sports figures. This is an opportunity where we was able to engage and also network with these individuals. So with that being said, I believe Mr. Ruben Roberts is going to come up and give a brief overview of the engagement project that he put together and came out and presented to the police department.
Very good evening, everyone, and thanks for having me out. Just want to share with you that the impetus of this training started prior to any incident that happened last year. So I met with Mr. Spring in 2015, and I met with the command staff. I think it was late 2015, early 2016. In fact, at the time, our current chief was not the chief at the time. He was a part of the command staff when we first met. So this says something about your city and the insight from this, having the insight to try to be proactive to address issues that may arise. Sad to say, in July, there was an incident where there was a police shooting. And so this worked well with that particular issue. We started off, the training deals with twofold. So there was one where we did training with the police officers, where we were preparing them to deal with diversity issues, also with the engagement, community engagement issues. And then after the community engagement and the diversity training, we would go into a local school. We'd go into a local school in North Miami Senior High, and we would have focus group sessions with the youth in that school. And so the trainings, during the training we asked questions like, how do you view police officers? And we really wanted to get the concept of how police officers saw their relationships with youth in the community and that sort of thing. Very interesting answers that we received, but by and large, city had already had the COPS program. They had a lot of community outreach, community engagement services that were already in place. So the officers, by and large, understood the significance of building that relationship with the youth and community members. We also looked at how to utilize effective communication to engage youth. So that dialogue is so very important, and thus this is why we have those team talks. The sessions that we have, we call them team talks, where the officers will go into the high schools and talk with the youth, as well as other outreach programs and initiatives like the Coffee with a Cop that wasn't mentioned, but you guys do that, and the lunches with the students in the school. That's not a part of what I do, but it's something that was already in place through the COPS program and the outreach. So we had trainings, and our objectives were to improve relationship between community members, police officers, to identify effective approaches to working with diverse populations, discuss culturally sensitive ways of policing, and we had those trainings with all shifts of the police officer. We hadn't covered, we didn't capture every police officer, but we captured a great percentage of them. And so we would have the 8 a.m., 2 p.m., and 5 p.m. on the day that we would have trainings. Similar information right here. So this is one of the groups that we trained. I think that was the afternoon shift. They came in, and this is one of the groups that we had the training with. And then these are some of the officers at the North Miami Senior High School that were having the focus group sessions. So let me give you a little bit of background on the focus group sessions. I do this, I provide these trainings with several municipalities, the city of Miami, Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and that sort of thing. So the whole thing is we start off by doing an icebreaker. And so the ratio is generally 5 to 1. We'll have 5 students to 1 officer. Didn't happen that way in this particular program, but we definitely would, that's the ratio that we provide. What we have is you have the officers interview the students in turn interview the officers. And then after their process of interviewing each other, we break back off into a larger group, and then I'll proceed to facilitate the group discussion by asking specific questions. Now, one of the things I want to say that was very different than I've ever experienced before, every member of the command staff, and including the chief, was at our very first workshop. So this workshop, this is not the first workshop, but at our very first workshop, every single command member, including the chief, was there, and it showed their dedication and commitment to the students and to the school. And by the way, the feedback that we received from the principal at the school was that the principal, even though they have school resource officers, the principal said himself that he would rather call on North Miami Police Department if he had any incident than to rely on his own school resource officers. And in fact, North Miami Police Department has a school resource, has an officer that's assigned to the school as well, and that's Officer Stewart. He's one of the school resource officers. So what you see here is, in terms of the mistrust for law enforcement, research shows that the number of touches that you have, so a lot of these kids who grew up in inner city neighborhoods, the majority of their interaction with law enforcement are negative. It's based on a call, an incident occurring, and that sort of thing. And so you have less opportunities for positive interaction with police officers. So all of the community events, the activities where they're having these positive interactions without incident really helps to build trust and cooperation with law enforcement. And so that's one of the reasons why we have this project going on as well. We want to make sure that these community members feel safe. One of my questions that I ask is, what's the difference between a resident of Coral Gables or Pinecrest and you? Do you feel that the residents in Pinecrest don't feel that the police are working for them? And when the students respond, they would say, well, no, they're different. They're treated differently. And they say, well, how can you make that happen in your own neighborhood? So there's a lot of trust issues. They're very guarded in the beginning, and this is why we're doing the icebreakers. And by the end, these students' guards are totally down. In fact, we've had one student almost stalk one of the officers. There was an invitation to come to the headquarters, and the student called several times, and the officer was in his office, and he says, "Hey, can I come by?" He says, "Sure." He says, "Why don't we schedule some time?" He said, "I'm downstairs." So I mean, that was a relationship that was built from having these types of meetings. Now, one of the things that came out that I thought was very significant was that even though there's Officer Belcher there, Commander Belcher there, one of the things that happened was, even though we've had these meetings, there's still a mindset, there's still a culture where these youth, when I posed the question, if your life was threatened, if someone said that they were going to do you bodily harm after school, how would you handle that situation? And over 90% of those youth said that they would not tell a law enforcement officer. So that shows me that more of these types of activities need to happen in terms of building that trust. And the whole thing about it is culturally they feel that, they call it snitching, that if they were to snitch, they fear the repercussions of their community members more than anything else, than losing their life. So you have people who are sworn to protect and serve and who can provide that guidance. And so this is something that we really have to work towards as far as our youth. And the youth are the front line. If we get them to buy into the concept that law enforcement officers are there to support them and work for them and work with them, as they get older, hopefully there'll be less resistance in terms of working in a cooperative manner with them. And also feeling that, listen, I don't have to fear them. There was about 75% of the youth that were present that said that they never had a conversation with a cop without it being an incident involved. And I asked them, how did it feel? And they saw the cops differently. And this is one of the reasons why we have this engagement program. We want them to see the humanity. Police officers are human, just like you. We want them to see the humanity in law enforcement officers. And likewise, we want the law enforcement officers to see the humanity in the youth. So it was a symbiotic relationship. I think they both learned, both groups learned, parties learned from speaking to each other in terms of concepts, views, and how they saw themselves, how they saw how to handle certain situations. Finally, I want to end with this, something I thought that was extremely important. I asked, one of the questions I asked during the facilitation process was, what's your worth? I asked the youth, what's your worth? And we got various answers and responses. But the thing that really piqued my interest was when I got a response from certain youth that felt that they were their value wasn't much. They put a value, I would refuse to say what the figure is, but they would put a figure to how they perceive their value. And, it wasn't much. But then we did have some students that said that they felt that there was priceless, that you cannot put a price on what I'm worth. And that's the goal, that's the aim. The officers responded remarkably in showing support for those youth and saying how much they saw the value in those youth. And I think that that's something so very important when you're talking about bridging gaps, when you're talking about building those relationships. I must say to you, I did not expect the outcome of the trainings that we had and the actual focus groups to be what they were, but I'm very pleased at the experience of working with the city of North Miami. We have a research component where we'll be collecting data on the officers who are doing surveys at 3 different time points, and I'll make that available to the city at the end of the sessions that we're having. All right. So that's my report.
Thank you.
Questions?
Thank you. Mr. Houston, you have. Thank you, Mr. Roberts. With that, I want to very quickly, before we close the meeting out, as I normally do, allow for the community council members to give brief comments, questions, or anything. So we'll start with Pastor Forbes.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'm going to be real brief. Since now dealing with the city of North Miami for about a year straight, everywhere I go, I have my own little personal acid test. And the city of North Miami has passed a law. Everywhere I go, I have my own little personal acid test, something my dad taught me a long time ago. Since dealing with law enforcement officers, not only in this city and other cities as well, I always feel a sense of security and safety, because that's what law enforcement should provide. But not all the time you get a sense of confidence. And my experience in dealing with the city of North Miami, from command staff all the way down to officers every day, they all have passed my acid test, in that they're not only doing their job to protect and serve, as we hear often, but they're also very competent. And the reason why they are is it's a direct credit and compliment to the command staff, because that's where it all has to start. It has to start there and work its way down. And that is happening. There is a lot of other areas that could be, as is with everywhere else and everything else, that could be improved upon, but that is happening here. It is comprehensive. It is layered like an onion. I mean, I don't know what else I could say to the work that is being done here. Every time I come back and every time I, call the chief or anybody dealing with the command staff, the city manager, anybody, it's getting, they even throw a little something more in there. We're going to tweak this a little bit more here. We're going to tweak that a little bit more here. Keep up the good work. Stay focused and continue to push forward for improvement. And I'll close with this. When I was in the military and I was going through what is called AIT, Advanced Individual Training, when you're learning your job, and I was a nurse in the military, and whenever the commander or whoever was in charge or put in charge would come out and call you to the position of attention, you all had to come up with your own slogan. I want to share mine with you all, and I want you all to continue it because it's still mine today. So if my old commander or sergeant or first sergeant came in here and called me to the position of attention, I would say striving for excellence, because that's what this city is doing. Striving. Striving means working, taking the good with the bad. You know what I'm saying? When the people don't show up and when it's not popular to be there, you still yet push forward and strive for excellence. You can't ask for anything more. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lean?
Well, I'd like to begin by saying that I'm very impressed what North Miami is doing in so many different respects to address a tragic circumstance that occurred. The reason this community council was called, and I'm not looking, there's, as I mentioned before, there's an investigation going on, so not looking at fault or anything like that, but, something very difficult occurred. And North Miami, the city I was born in, actually, I think I told you that the first time, North Miami it's incredible the amount of things that you're doing based on that to try. That was a negative event, but to try to bring some positive silver lining out of that so that it won't happen again, and in fact so that you will be at this level of excellence that was just mentioned. I'm very impressed with what you're doing, so I wanted to start with that. The second thing I wanted to mention was, I have a daughter with severe autism. So she's a wonderful little girl, very happy child, loves to jump up and down. She's 12 years old. She's getting older. She's getting taller. She's getting stronger. I still don't think she knows the difference between right and wrong. I think everything she does is right. She's an innocent. So she doesn't have original sin, as you might say. She doesn't know about those things. She doesn't know that this belongs to me or that belongs to you. She knows that she likes to eat, ice cream. And so if you have ice cream, she'll come up to you and eat your ice cream. And if you have fries, she'll come down and sit down with you and eat your fries. And and she'll come in, if she likes something shiny, she'll take it. The reason I say that is one of the most important things with individuals with autism is that you know that they have autism. Because obviously if someone came up to you typically and they started eating from your plate or taking something from you, you would be very concerned. It might even be an assault or something like that. It could be something wrong, and it might be something where you'd call the police even in certain circumstances. And if the police respond to that, the typical response is, well, you can't do that. People have personal space, things like that. Once someone knows that she has autism, they react completely differently to her. And they're like, oh, of course she can have the fries, of course. And they're always so kind about it. And if they do say something negative or give a dirty look or something like that, sometimes people are stressed out and they're not sure what's happening. But once they find out, 100% of the time, they're very kind about it. So, and I'll tell you one other thing that happened. About 2 or 3 years ago, I remember my daughter is very fast. She just did Special Olympics. She won first place in the 50-meter dash, and the big issue was getting her to finish because she's really fast, but she'll run and then she'll stop because she'll want to sit on the track for a little bit and then she'll want to get up. So it's getting her to finish and to enjoy finishing. But she won first place, 50-meter dash, and then the standing long jump. So she's very fast. So one day I was standing outside my house and she was standing with me. I was talking to someone and all of a sudden she started running. She just bolted and she ran into a neighbor's. Actually, this was at a birthday party we were at. Pardon me. She's done this a couple times, but she ran into a neighbor's house, like right into their house, right through their door. Opened the door, ran right in because we found out she wanted to go look in their refrigerator to see what food there was. So I run after her, of course, and I call out, she has autism when the door opens, and the people were very kind, about it, and it wasn't an issue. But, it occurred to me that it could be an issue. There could be a time, particularly as she gets older, where, and let me tell you, she's in intensive therapy. We work with her all the time. We're trying to get her not to do that, but sometimes you're just standing there. She's a very good girl, but if she's going to bolt and do that, she's going to bolt and do that. And the issue is, you're right. There are times when a police officer may see that and not know the individual's autism and think, oh, this person's breaking into this house. And someone in the house may get scared, and justifiably so, and think, what's happening, and respond. And, and that scares me. That scares me, because I know that could happen, and that person could act justifiably, but yet it could still hurt my daughter, who's done nothing wrong, because she has no ill intent. And so the point I want to make is, the only way we can address that is through teaching people and helping people learn more about what autism is, so they'll recognize it and know that there's no threat. That's the only way you can do it. So not only do I think it's wonderful you've trained all your officers in autism recognition and the autism training and the wallet card training, but everything else you're doing, including the body cameras, and I looked at the SOP. It's an excellent SOP. These community council meetings, where people talk about these things, I just think it's tremendous. I'm so pleased to see it. One other thing I wanted to mention is my office is working on an SOP for interacting with individuals with autism for police. That puts a lot of the factors that you look at when you determine that someone has autism. How do you respond to them? What are the ways to de-escalate? And so I'm planning to share that with you when we issue, which should be later this month, for Autism Awareness Month. And then any feedback you have, because now you're becoming experts in this area too, I know. So if you have any feedback on it, please give it to me, because I'm trying. My goal is to send this to every city in the state of Florida, and maybe even in the United States, to try to get all of them to adopt this, because I know in the end that's going to protect my daughter. That's going to protect everyone. It's going to protect police officers who are just trying to do their job every day and just want the knowledge and the tools to be able to know what they're dealing with. So thank you.
Thank you. Gypsy?
Thank you very much. So I too want to commend you for your proactive stance, and not only in the creation of this council, but I think I think many other fellow councilors mentioned, from body cameras to the trainings that you've had, from cultural competency to training in autism, or identifying or understanding the autism spectrum. I think you should continue to do more of that. Wonderful. Second thing is that I love the fact that the police officers are engaging with youth in their schools, either through your Lunch with Students program. I hope you do career fairs or career day presentations. I hope you do career day presentations. And I would also suggest that maybe, in keeping with this notion of slogans like protect and serve, etc., maybe the North Miami Police Department issues some sort of contest among students throughout the North Miami city to ask them to come up with a slogan that would be reflective of your mission and vision, right? So not protect and serve, because a lot of other police organizations use it, but something really endemic to North Miami, something that the kids would have come up with and that you would find attractive and useful, and more importantly reflective of the work you want to do, the role you want to play, the vision you've got for the city, and how you want to protect and serve the city residents, right? And then finally, I would also urge, it could be tricky, it could be risky, but I would urge conversations with community residents, not around incidents, not around major issues. Well, I guess they would happen to touch upon major issues anyway, but not around incidents. So you're not reacting to anything, but you're just sitting down with people and listening. So I don't know if that's a facilitated kind of conversation, but I think, again, just as you're engaging with youth, you need to do something with adults as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the comment. Just one response to that. The department has started these community rides that they do every Thursday. They bring staff. I've participated and will continue. and we get some of that engagement. We're literally like a pack of wolves riding on bicycles, and you don't realize your city manager's there, your deputy, your chiefs, your assistant chiefs, and we literally just see somebody on the street, hey, how are you doing? And I think a lot of them are, taken aback when they've never seen it. Never saw that in my neighborhood.
And I forgot to mention that I love the cycling. I think it is phenomenal. We should do more of it because I do think it makes a difference.
So we do get out that. With that, I'm going to say thank you again. I appreciate your time. One brief, yes. The printers, you got it, no problem.
One thing she said.
Quickly, let me share this with you. What you have heard today, especially on the community engagement portion, is just a piece of the puzzle. It is the culture that we are changing. I've been very fortunate. I have a good group of people who are buying into it. For example, to share with you, last year we were able to reduce crimes without the city, and we did so with about 500 less arrests for the year. So probably reaching to the community makes more sense than putting a young guy, young woman, young girls in jail when there is no need for it. And you will see the officers engage to the community more. Unfortunately, our job, we took the oath, we know what it entails of, we know there is a risk factor, and who knows what could happen as we're sitting here. It is a risk that we all agreed of taking and moving forward. We only hope that our commitment, our training. We had a major training a couple of days ago on 125th Street at the Jewish Community Center. It was in anticipation of probably, which perhaps we'll never have to use it. But they said, we always prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And it is our commitment, and that's what we keep reminding our officers on a daily basis. Not only me, but everybody, the entire command staff, and even outside of the police departments, that engagement, that commitment is sacred, and hopefully that will prevent or avoid any other recurrence of what we have experienced about 7-8 months ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to say, again, thank you everybody for coming. Want to respect everybody's time. So, as usual, we'll have update. If you want notes from the meeting, they will be made available. So, with that, I'll close the meeting. Thank you. Thank you.